Alright, welcome guys. This is going to be an unscripted Pauper review for Historic Pauper. So we have a new set coming out on Arena, Alchemy Horizons Baldur's Gate. And I'm just going to be going over all the Pauper cards. So let's start with white. I'm going to try and put timestamps into the video. So Flaming Fist Discard. This looks like a reasonable card. 2 mana for a 3/1, and then it has the boon when you cast your next creature spell, it perpetually gets +1/+0. You know, I think everyone knows that Bone Splitter is decent. It's a little bit too good for draft, but it's like reasonable and constructed. And this is sort of a similar effect where it just makes your creatures just a little bit more power. I think this card will be reasonable. I don't think it'll see play though. At the moment, like white is more of a controlling color in Historic Pauper that aims to go for a little bit longer game. So, I say that, but then there's the mono white flyers, right? I don't think this will fit because it doesn't have evasion. So, I think this card is probably on the borderline, and I'm going to say it's not going to see too much play. Let's see here. Mace of Disruption. Equipped creature gets +0/+2 and has protection from demons and devils. And this equipped creature attacks, it gets +1/+0 perpetually if it has the same name as another creature you control or a creature card in your graveyard. Interesting. So the protection from demons and devils, I don't think that's very relevant. There's maybe 1 or 2 devils that see play. The perpetual looks pretty good, but the fact that you have to have the same name as another creature makes it a little bit too bad, I think. But this looks like a reasonable equipment, you know? If we get more and more equipments, it might get there. Patriarch's Humiliation, 1 mana. Target creature perpetually loses all abilities. Then, okay, so this is Outlast. Then Patriarch deals damage to it. Yeah. This looks pretty good. I think this looks reasonable. Perpetually loses all abilities is pretty relevant because most of the creatures in Historic Pauper are value creatures where there's some kind of effect attached to them, right? You're not gonna get like a 6/6 for 4 mana or something, unless you're playing Serpentine Curve. So you know this looks reasonable with the loses all abilities tag. Ranger Squadron, 6 mana. Flying double team 3/4. Okay, so double team is a new mechanic where if you attack with the creature, you can conjure a copy into your hand. 6 mana 3/4 flying. I don't like that too much, but I do like flying double team 3/4. That's a pretty good stat line. 6 mana I think is a little bit too much though. So I don't think this card will see much play. Soldiers of the Watch, 2 mana, double team 2/1. Yeah, so this card I don't think is good at all. I do like seeing double team on a 2 mana card. You know, 1 mana, 2 mana cards with double team are probably going to be acceptable. I think 2/1 and no evasion makes this not the best card. And the reason is that there's just a lot of good 1/3s in Historic Pauper. So, like, you might be able to get in 1 attack, you know, and then you get to conjure another 2 mana 2/1. That's pretty medium. That's pretty medium. Valiant Farewell, 2 mana combat trick, instant. Target creature you control gets +2/+0 until end of turn. You get a boon when that creature leaves. Draw a card. Okay. Okay, so this looks like a pretty good combat trick. I think I talked about it before, but a perpetual +2/+0 is pretty reasonable. If you think of it as like a sort of bone splitter. Um, I like to draw a card too. So this combat trick does look reasonable. I'm not sure I like combat tricks that cost 2 mana though. Um, but we will see. We will see. I could see this seeing play for sure. Okay, let's keep scrolling. A bunch of rares here. Blessed Hippogriff. Okay, Adventure, 1 mana. Target creature gains indestructible. When Blessed Hippogriff attacks target. Okay, so it's a 2/3 for 4 mana with flying. That's a pretty common stat line. But I think the important part is the Adventure here, where it's a 1 mana combat trick to, well, protection spell sort of. This card looks pretty reasonable. Yeah, this card looks pretty reasonable. Right now there's Karametra's Blessing in white, but of course that requires your creature being enchanted. So I think this card could definitely see play. I think at the moment a lot of people are preferring black removal over red removal. So black removal gets -X, and that would get around this indestructible. So at the moment, I don't think this is good, but that could change very easily. And when it does, I'm sure this card will come back. Celestial Unicorn, this is a reprint, 3 mana for a, what is it? The 2/2 bear that gains life. That's an uncommon. Celestial Unicorn, yeah, this card is a fine card. It's a great payoff for life gain. Most of the time, you have to answer it right away, or else it gets out of control really quickly. Yeah, it's a reasonable card. Dawnbringer Cleric, this is a reprint. This is one of the best white sideboard options. It hits burn, it hits auras, hexproof. It hits some graveyard decks just to get some extra value. And 2 mana 1/3 is a pretty good stat line in Historic Pauper. Devoted Paladin, 5 mana 4/4. When it ETBs, creatures get +1/+1 against vigilance. I'm pretty sure this is a functional reprint. I know there's a 3/3 flying that gives the same effect, but 4 mana on the ground, or 4/4 on the ground. It could see play. It could see play. Orc Knight, that might be relevant creature types eventually. Flaming Fist Officer, 3 mana. Whenever another creature you control leaves the battlefield, put it. Yeah. All right. So 3 mana 2/2. It grows whenever a creature leaves the battlefield. I thought so when I first saw this card, I thought it was 2 mana. And that makes it a lot better. For 3 mana, I think this card is still not quite there. So if you compare it to Celestial Unicorn, which is also 3 mana and grows whenever you gain life instead, gaining life is just so much easier, and there's just so many more triggers for gaining life. Celestial Unicorn is just such a better card than this card. So I don't think this card is good enough. Flaming Fist Officer. Guardian Naga, 7 mana, 5/6, vigilance. As long as you return, prevent all damage that would be dealt to Guardian Naga. But there's an adventure, 3 mana, instant, exile target artifact or enchantment. So this is a reasonable card. I think black has a similar card for the adventure where it's like 3 mana, exile an enchantment, exile an enchantment, opponent sacrifices an enchantment and they exile it or something. So 3 mana, exile target artifact or enchantment. I think that's a pretty reasonable sideboard card. 7 mana is a lot, but this will probably go in a deck that looks to go long, and a 5/6 vigilance that gets to attack for free looks pretty good. Yeah, I think this card is pretty reasonable, for sure. I'm not sure if it'll be what you want, because for as in sideboard. I think this would probably be like some kind of main deck maybe for the 5/6. I don't know. Well, I have to say this card is playable, but I'm not sure where it goes. Okay, Icewind Stalwart. 4 mana when it enters the battlefield. Okay, so you get to blink a non-warrior creature. So this looks pretty good. This looks pretty good. I've said it before, Historic Pauper has a lot of value creatures, and just getting to get another ETB trigger on them is pretty good. And also this comes with a body, a 3/3 body, which is very reasonable. This card will definitely see play, I feel. Minimus Containment. This is a reprint. It's a 3 mana enchantment removal. It's alright, but I don't think it sees much constructed play. Let's see here. Priest of the Ancient Lore. This is a reprint from AFR. It's good. It's been overshadowed by the new card in Streets of New Capenna, which is basically the same thing but has flying. Steadfast Paladin, 2 mana, 2/2 lifelink. Okay, so this is a reprint. 2 mana, 2/2 flying. Or, sorry, 2 mana, 2/2 lifelink is a reasonable in draft, but in constructed, it's just not good enough. Steadfast Unicorn, 1 mana, 1/2. For 4 creatures you control, get +4, activate only during your turn. +1/+1 in Vigilance. Ooh, okay. So this is an upgrade. There's another similar card where it costs 5 to get +1/+1, and it's a 1 mana, 1/2 as well. I think this will see play in Winding Way decks, and White Weenie decks could use it. Yeah, this card looks pretty playable. You hear something on watch. This card is one of the better white removal spells because it has the option to pump your creatures. This is a really good reprint, I guess. Definitely pick this up if you're playing Historic Pauper. You're ambushed on the road, 1 mana, return target creature you control to its owner's hand, target creature. Okay, so this is like a weird protection spell. I think this is a reprint, right? You're ambushed on the road. I don't think this sees play at all. Alright, that does it for white. So let's take a look at blue. Hypnotic Pattern, 1 mana instant, target creature perpetually gets -2/-0. Target creature gets -2. Okay, so this looks decent. I know. So the problem with blue's combat tricks is that every other color has better combat tricks than blue. So you're probably only running this in a mono blue shell. And the only mono blue deck I know is my own personal mono blue fairies and ninjas, which I don't think I would play this card, but it does look reasonable. I'm gonna say it's not playable, but it's close. And the fact that it can target 2 creatures is what makes it close. Lizardfolk Librarians, 4 mana, double team 2/4 when ETB scry 2. Alright, I don't think this card is good. 4 mana for a 2/4 vanilla with no evasion just doesn't cut it. The double team is cool, but I don't think this is worth 4 mana to double team this. The scry 2 is a pretty weak effect on a 4 mana card, I think. So I don't think this is playable. Scroll past some rares. Undersimplify. Choose target spell. If it's a creature spell, it gets -2. Counter that spell unless its controller plays 2. Okay, so this looks like a quench upgrade, right? I think this card can definitely see play. You know, they keep printing these conditional 2 mana counter spells, and I like them. I like them. I'm not sure if this is currently the best option to choose, because blue has the blue tap an artifact or pay an extra 1 counterspell, which if you want to check that out in my mono blue fairies and ninjas deck. But this looks definitely playable. Definitely playable. Water Weird, 4 mana, 3/4. Deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter if the top card is non-land. Otherwise, you may mill a card. So this looks like a thing that can get out of control with a couple attacks. I do like it. I'm a little bit hesitant because it doesn't have invasion. If this was like a 4 mana 1/4 flying, I would like this a lot better. And it has like a sort of pseudo scry. I think this is just underneath playable, but we'll see. Wizened Githzerai? 2 mana, 2/1. Whenever Wizened becomes blocked by a creature, that creature perpetually gets -2/-0. I don't think this is good. It does get to attack into 1/3s, but I don't think this does enough. So getting to attack into 1/3s makes it a better 2/1, but I don't think this card is good enough. Aircult Elemental, 6 mana, 2/5 flying. Alright, so I think this is a reprint. This card does not see any play. Blur, 3 mana, blink a creature, draw a card. So this card looks pretty good actually because of the cantrip. I believe this is the first blink spell that cantrips. So this card will probably see play somewhere. This is definitely a playable card. Charmed Sleep. I think this is a reprint. Yeah, 3 mana enchantment removal. Yeah. Clever Conjurer. This card doesn't see play at all. Clever Conjurer, 3 mana. Alright, so this is a reprint too, I think. I remember this from AFR. Untap target permanent. Yeah, so this card currently doesn't see play. It might see play eventually as a like combo piece, but they've been actively designing against combos in Pauper, so we probably won't see this card ever. Contact other plane, 4 mana. Yeah, 4 mana, draw 2. This card doesn't really see play at all. There's better cards in Historic Pauper. Charmed Sleep. Sorry, Displacer Kitten. Nope, that's a rare. Dragonborn Looter. 2 mana. 1/2. Oh, okay. So this is a this unfortunately I don't think we'll see play because it costs 1 mana to loot a card. That's just simply not good enough in Constructed. But this will probably be a pretty good card in draft. Alright, let's scroll past some uncommons here. Commons, rares, uncommon. Alright, Pseudo Dragon Familiar, 3 mana, 2/1 flying. Target creature gains flying until end of turn for 3 mana. This card is interesting. I don't think it's good enough. Like 2/1 flying for 3 is reasonable, but most of the other 2/1 flyings come with cantrips. Namely, I think there's a Cloudkin Seer. It's 2/1 flying for 3 that draws a card. I don't think this effect is very relevant. Target creature gains flying until end of turn. You're usually not hoping to get one specific creature in. So you're usually trying to build a board of flyers, or you're stalling a board of flyers. So I don't think this card is good. Rhyme Shield, Frost Giant. Yeah, 5 mana, 4/5, Ward 3. I think this is a reprint. This card does not see play. Shocking Grasp. Target creature gets -2. Alright, I think this is a reprint as well. I don't think this card sees play at all. It's just not a good combat trick. Even though it's a cantrip, like, it's just not a good combat trick. Soul Knife Spy. Whenever deals combat damage. Okay, so I think this card is in the game already. I think this is a reprint. This card does not see play. And the reason is that 3 mana is just too much to spend for something that can die to 1 mana removal. And I know death, like it's Doomblade argument, but you know, this is constructed, right? And this card just, there's no evasion on it too. Like it's just not good enough for constructed play. Timor's Invoker, 2 mana, 1/3. Spend 8, draw 2 cards. Okay, this is, I think, not good for constructed. I think there's a similar card that only draws 1 card, but that's also not quite good enough. You know, this might break like a stall, but usually in constructed, you're not really stalled out because of a lack of cards. But well, I don't think this will see play. You come to a river. This is a good card. I like this, but it's more on the side, and this is a reprint, so pick it up if you want in draft. You find the Villain's Lair, 3 mana counterspell. This card is alright. I think there are better counterspells. But maybe the looting will be relevant someday. Young Blue Dragon, 5 mana, 3/3 flying, 2 mana sorcery. Scry 1, then draw a card. I don't think this is good enough. If this was an instant, this would probably see play, but unfortunately, being a sorcery, that's not good enough. And this is uncommon. Alright, so in blue, there really wasn't that much that was interesting. Oh, I think this one was a common in vintage Pauper and paper Pauper, but I think they've upshifted it to uncommon in historic, which is unfortunate. And yeah, I think you know, Dragonborn Looter isn't good enough. There's a bunch of reprints in blue, which is surprising, but Blur is probably the blue card of choice in this set. Alright, let's move on to black. So, Hook Horror, 5 mana, 3/3. When Hook Horror dies, it perpetually gets -1/-1. Then, if that card's toughness is 1 or greater, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. So this card is very close. I don't think it's actually playable, though. And the reason is at 5 mana, your cards have to be better than just a 3/3 that comes back as a 2/2. That then also comes back as a 1/1, but that's not usually not very relevant. It does get you like an extra turn over some other like chump blockers, but I don't think this is a good enough card. Sewer Plague, 3 mana, target creature and opponent controls perpetually gains -2. Okay, so the perpetual -2/-2 is pretty good for three mana. This looks like a worse Obnixilis. Well, I shouldn't say that. It looks like a side grade to Obnixilis Cruelty, which is -5/-5 exile creature if it dies. This looks reasonable, but it's another black removal spell, so it'll probably be playable, but it's nothing standout. Scroll past some rares here. Armor of Shadows, 1 mana instant. Until end of turn, target creature gains +1/+0 and gains indestructible. Okay, this is pretty good then. I think this is a reasonable combat trick. Not pretty good, sorry. I don't believe black had a 1 mana combat trick that gives indestructible before. Most of them were 2 mana. Most of black's combat tricks at 1 mana were the Undying types. So this one giving indestructible probably has a niche, but it's probably not good enough. It might see some play, a little bit of play. Baleful Beholder, I think this is a downshift from AFR. It doesn't see any play in AFR. It probably won't see any play in AFR draft. It's reasonable in AFR draft, but this probably won't see any play in Pauper. Chain Devil, 4 mana, 4/2. Okay, when Chain Devil enter ETBs, each player sacrifices a non-token creature. So I believe this is the very first effect in Historic Pauper that has this effect. The very first creature that has this effect. So that gives it a pretty good niche. This is probably like a sideboard card against Hexproof, but Hexproof has the Merfolk that makes a Hexproof token, so that misses. This card misses that Merfolk. So I guess if that's the case, this makes it a lot worse. But it is the first time this effect has been printed at Historic Pauper, so Deadly Dispute. This is a reprint and an amazing card. Pretty much every single deck that uses artifacts can run this card. It's really good. Demogorgon's Clutches, 3 mana. Okay, so this is a Mind Rot. I believe this has actually already been printed functionally, not at this name. Mind Rot is okay. It's probably a little bit underneath playable though. Eyes of the Beholder. Okay, yeah, this is a reprint from AFR. This is not playable. It's a murder with fancy steps, but they cost 6 mana, so it's not playable. Gray Slad, 3 mana. As long as there are 4 more creatures, has Menace and Death Touch. Okay, 4/1, mill 4 cards. Okay, 3 mana for 4 power is pretty good. Usually you only see that in green or red. I don't think 4 power for 3 mana is good enough though. But the Menace and Death Touch is definitely interesting. And then mill 4. The Adventure, that's an interesting adventure. There is a green-black self-mill deck that looks to mill lands to gain life that then pings your opponent. And I'm sure the person in Historic Pauper who plays that will be very happy to see this. Grim Bounty, 4 mana, murder, create a treasure token. Okay, I don't think this is good enough. It's a sorcery too, yeah. I don't think that's good enough. Yeah, a 4 mana sorcery murder is usually not playable in Constructed. Guildsworn Prowler, 2 mana, 2/1 Death Touch. When it dies, if it wasn't blocking, draw a card. Wow, so this is a really good draft card. For Constructed, I think this is reasonable. But I don't think it's good enough. So getting to draw a card when it dies makes it playable, but I would say this is a pretty weak playable card in Constructed. Horde Robber, 2 mana, 1/3 when deals combat. Okay, I think this is a reprint from maybe AFR again. I don't think this card sees play. Manticore. Alright, I know this is a reprint. I don't think this card sees play. I've tried fooling around with this effect, destroy target creature that was dealt damage this turn, and Manticore is definitely the best card out of that effect, but 4 mana is just too much to pay for this kind of effect. Nefarious Imp, 3 mana, flying, 2/1. When 1 or more permanents you control leave the battlefield, scry 1. Oh wow. So this is pretty good. This is definitely really good. And the reason is that we have a lot of blood tokens that are playable. We have a lot of Evolving Wilds and the new sacrifice lands that gain 1 life from Streets of New Capenna. And this looks very reasonable for your deck control in black. Sepulchre Ghoul. Okay, interesting. I wonder if they're gonna bring the alchemy version, or I mean, it has to be the alchemy version in Historic Pauper, right? Um, so the alchemy version is a 2/2 instead of a 2/1. Uh, this is a reasonable card in red, black, steel, and sack, but I don't think it's good enough otherwise. Shambling Gas, 1 mana, 1/1. Yeah, zombie. This is a reprint. It's seen play in the mono black zombies or other zombie decks. Um, but it's probably one of the weaker cards. It's one of the better 1 mana zombies though, but that's not really saying much. Summon Undead, 5 mana. You may mill 3 cards, then return a creature card. Okay. Um, this card is probably pretty reasonable. I don't think Reanimation is a real deck in Historic Pauper though. These tools, this is a reprint. I've fooled around with this card, but it currently does not see any play. The effect is just a little bit too narrow. So I've tried to combo this card with Glimmer Barn specifically, and then sacrifice a bunch of tokens to Glimmer Barn for like an ATOG like effect. Vampire Spawn, 3 mana. Okay, so this is a reprint. I like playing this card in Mono Black Burn. It's pretty good. Alright, okay, here's the Alchemy Sepulchre Ghoul. Okay. On to red. Alright. Genasi Rabble Rouser. 2 mana, 1/3. Double team. Creatures you control gain +1/+0. Okay, this card looks pretty good. I think this card is definitely playable. I like the double team on a 2 mana card. It's a 1/3, which is not the best for aggro, but it does get to attack pretty often. And, 2 mana pump for +1/+0 gets very relevant in the late game. You can just threaten to pump with like 4 mana, 6 mana. This card looks pretty good. Could definitely see this card getting play. 3 mana Menace Double Team 2/2. I think this card is worse than the Rabble Rouser. So 3 mana is too much for a 2/2, and then the Menace helps, and the double team helps, but I don't think this card is good enough. Just coming down a turn later just makes it so much worse, unfortunately. Incessant Provocation. 4 mana, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Okay, so this is a steel card. Oh, and it perpetually gains this creature attacks each combat if able. Okay. I don't know if this is what red, black, steel, and sack would run for the steel version. And I don't think it is, even though the perpetual gets rid of a blocker, basically. So I don't think this card is going to be good enough. I don't think it's playable at all. Kobold Warcaller, 1 mana, 1/1. Tap, it perpetually gains haste. Okay, so this card is probably pretty good in some kind of aggressive deck. This card will probably see play in some kind of combo deck too. Just being able to keep giving all your creatures haste looks reasonable. Unexpected Allies, 2 mana. Target non-token creature you control gets +2 and gains double team. Interesting. It also gains first strike if it has the same name as another creature you control. 2 mana sorcery. Interesting. So this card looks very, very cute. Like I want to use this card on like a mutate stack. With the 3/4 blue flyer that draws a card when you mutate. I think that's a little bit too too cute, too involved. But this card looks on borderline playable. Borderline playable. Warriors of Tiamat, 5 mana, 4/2 haste double team. This card is just not good enough. I like the haste double team, and 4/2 is a reasonable stat line. But I think if this was 4 mana, it would be really good and playable. But at 5 mana, I don't think this is good enough. It might see play. It's like just underneath being playable. Dragon's Fire. Okay. This is a reprint, I think. It's a 2 mana red removal spell that has an upside. It's probably they'll probably see play. I think people use Frostbite. I personally always use Frostbite. So, but I mean, 2 mana red removal, it could see play. Dueling Rapier. I think this is a reprint. This doesn't really see play, but it is a reasonable equipment. So if equipments and like warriors get better, then this could be in. But at the moment, it's not playable. Earth Cult Elemental, 6 mana, 6/6. Yeah. I don't think this card sees play at all. It's not good enough. Faraday's Fireball, 5 mana. Deal 5. Okay, yeah. This is a reprint from AFR, I believe. And it's not playable in constructed. Hobgoblin Captain. Okay, yeah. I like this card as a 2 mana 3 power creature, and it gets first strike if you trigger the pack tactics. It currently does not see play, but you know, if goblins get a couple new goblins, this could definitely slot in there. Improvised Weaponry. This is a reprint as well. 3 mana for a sorcery speed, deal 2. It's not good enough. This is a draft card. Jaded Sellsword. Yeah, this is a reprint from AFR again. It's not good enough. It's for constructed. Oh, look at this. Reckless Barbarian, 2 mana, 2/2. Sacrifice it, add red. So this is mana neutral, which means that it will probably see play in red. This card looks really good. You basically just play it, and then you get 2 mana whenever you want. This card looks very good, actually. And also, notably, it has red and a 1, which means that Goblin and Narcomancer, the red-green Goblin, can discount this to 1 mana, which makes this a ritual, which is literally the first ritual in Historic Pauper. I'm not counting the Tybalt's whatever that that costs 3 and then makes 4 mana for enchantments or creatures only. So this is literally the first ritual in Historic Pauper. This card will definitely see play for sure. Let's see here. Unexpected Windfall. Okay, this is a downshift, I believe. We had a big score in Streets of New Capenna, so this helps out with this kind of effect at common. Valor Singer. I mean, it's to go back to Unexpected Windfall and big score. It's a reasonable card. You see it in Storm a lot with Chatterstorm, but you don't really see it anywhere else. Valor Singer, 3 mana, 2/3. At the beginning of combat, target creature gains +1/+0. Okay, this card looks reasonable. It'll probably be good in draft, but I don't think this is a constructed card. You come to the Null Camp, 2 mana, combat trick, or can't block. I think this is a reprint as well, and this is not great for a constructed. 2 mana combat tricks usually have to be better than this to be played. You find some prisoners. Okay, this is a downshift from AFR. 2 mana, destroy target artifact or exile top 3 cards, or impulse your opponent's library. Yeah, this looks alright as a sideboard card, but I don't think it sees play. Young Red Dragon, 4 mana, 3/2 flying, can't block. Oh, interesting. Bathed in gold, 2 mana, create a treasure token. Wow, this is very interesting. So, notably, this does get discounted by Goblin and Narcomancer, and it becomes mana neutral. So this is actually pretty good, I think. Yeah, this adventure is pretty good because you can just ramp on two as well. Um, yeah, this card looks really good for the adventure card. I expect this will see play in Storm. All right, so let's move on to green. Arcane Archery, 3 mana, instant. Target creature gains reach +3/+3 and reach and trample. You get a boon with when you cast your next creature spell, that creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter, reach counter, and trample counter. Interesting. So this is like a combat trick that also gives your next creature a buff. Wow. I have to say I like it. Reach and trample are definitely keywords that green wants to have, and the buff additional +1/+1 counter helps as well. It just makes your creatures a little bit bigger. I feel this is a little bit too costly, but it could be pretty good. It could be pretty good. Yeah, I think this is going to be borderline playable. Playable to slightly not playable. Follow the tracks, 3 mana, sorcery, conjure a card of your choice from the spellbook. I believe the spellbook are the gates, and the gates are basically the new thriving lands, but they also have the gate subtype. I don't think this is playable. I don't think Historic Pauper is getting the gate that pumps your creatures for each gate you have. So I don't think this is playable. 3 mana for a rampant growth is just not good enough. And we already have a 2 mana rampant growth in Into the North, which is finds a snow land from your deck. So I don't think this is playable. You line up the shot, 1 mana, instant. Conjure a card named Plummet. Conjure a card named Naturalize. Draw a card. Okay. Wow. So this is a 1 mana cantrip in green. This looks pretty good. I expect this will probably be in Storm. And otherwise, it looks a little bit too costly to use it as a sideboard card. Like, Plummet is, I believe, 2 mana destroy a flying creature, naturalizes 2 mana destroy target artifact or enchantment. So it's basically 3 mana. And 3 mana for a sideboard card is reasonable. All right. The more I'm talking about it, the more it's growing on me. Yeah, this will probably be a sideboard card. Pretty good sideboard card, I think. Ambitious Dragonborn, 4 mana, 0/0, enters the battlefield with its greatest power among creatures you control and creature cards in your graveyard. Okay, so this is like a 4 mana 7/7, right? I don't think this is good. Like, presumably you're cycling Greater Sandworm, right? 7/7 that cycles for 2, and then you play this on turn 4. Yeah, I mean, it's alright. It's probably borderline playable, as in, like, it's reasonable, but I don't think it'll be very, very good. Band Together, 3 mana, up to 2 target creatures you control deal damage. Alright, so I think this is a functional reprint from something. This card is not constructed worthy. Circle of the Land Druid, 2 mana, 1/1. When Circle of the Land Druid enters, you may mill 4 cards. When it dies, return target land from your graveyard to your hand. Okay. This card looks reasonable. I don't think it currently has a home In Historic Pauper, you don't really have many lands that get you value, and when they do, it's from ETB effects. But the thing is, there's nothing that really sacrifices your own lands. So maybe something will come out. You can sacrifice your Mystic Sanctuary and play this and get it back, but that seems a little bit too convoluted. Circle the Moon Druid, 4/2 or 2/4. Yeah, so this is a reprint. It doesn't see any play at the moment. Dread Linorn, 7 mana, 7/6, can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or less. Scale Deflection, 4 mana instant. Okay, Hexproof is nice. The +2/+2 counters is nice. 4 mana is a little bit too much to hold up every turn, I think. This is interesting. This is very interesting. 7 mana. So this card is played for the adventure, and then the 7 mana creature is just bonus. I do like that it can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or less. Most of the effects that we've seen so far is by creatures with power 2 or less. And 3 power is a very, very relevant power threshold breakpoint because of Cyril's Packmate and Elephant's Trumpeting Herd. So this card is reasonable on the dragon side, and then the 4 mana hexproof. We'll see. We'll see. Druidic Ritual, 3 mana. You may mill 3 cards, return up to 1 creature card and up to 1 land card. Yeah, this could see play in a self-mill deck. I could definitely see that happening. It'll probably be like a 1 or 2 of, but this looks reasonable. Definitely playable. Probably on the low end of playable though. Ettercap, 5 mana, 2/5 reach, web shot, 3 mana, destroy target creature with flying. Okay, so it's a plummet basically. And you're paying an extra 1 mana to draw a 5 mana 2/5 reach. I don't think this is playable, unfortunately. A lot of the flying creatures you want to kill are stuff like Muldrifter, where they already got their value, or it's going to be like mono white aggro with flyers, where spending 3 mana to kill a 1 mana flyer just isn't great, especially since you have to play into their protection spells as well. I don't think this is good enough. The 2/5 reach for 5 is interesting, but I feel like 5 mana is just a little bit too much to pay for this. Null Hunter, 2 mana, 2/2. Alright, this is a reprint. I love this card in my mono green Stompy deck. I think it's on the low end of playable though, but I do love this card. It's very easy for this card to get out of hand. You know, you attack with this card and a couple other creatures, and then you can just eventually attack by itself and keep growing. Hill Giant Herdgorger, 6 mana, 7. Alright, this is a reprint, I believe. It's alright. It's alright. I don't think anyone actually plays this because there's another green card that gains you like 4 life instead, or like there's another card that gains you more life. So this card doesn't actually see that much play. Inspiring Bard, 4 mana, 3/3. Target creature. Okay, I think this is a downshift from AFR, Forgotten Realms. This looks reasonable. And the reason is that it'll probably be a sideboard card for green against burn. 3/3 is just a good breakpoint for stats. Gaining 3 life is good, and then it also has the +2/+2. Yeah, it's reasonable. It'll probably be a sideboard card against burn at best, but that's probably it. Owlbear, this is a reprint. This is a great green card. Definitely pick up some copies if you're missing it. 4 mana 5 mana 4/4 trample, amazing. ETBs draws the card, amazing. Poison the Blade, 2 mana, Death Touch, draw a card, instant. Okay, so this is similar to the black card, but now it's color shifted to green. I like it. I like it. So I like it in green specifically because green has a lot of trample creatures. And Death Touch and Trample is a reasonable effect. Let's see here. Scaled Nurturer, 2 mana, add green. When you spend this mana, you gain 2 life. Okay. 2 mana elves don't really see that much play, except in elf decks specifically. So I don't think this card is good enough, but it does look interesting. If dragon ever matters, then this card might see play. Sylvan Shepherd. Okay, this is a reprint from AFR. I fooled around with it as a green life gain option, but it's all right, but it's probably on the the very low end of playable, if not like slightly underneath playable. Underseller Myconid. Yeah, it's probably Myconid. 3 mana, when it enters the battlefield or dies, create a 1/1 sapling. 1/2 taps for any color. Interesting. 3 mana 3 mana mana rocks usually don't see play in constructed. I like that this makes a sapling though, and I wonder if this brings back green-black saplings. That was an old deck from Dominaria, which runs I think it's called Ballad Omnivore. I don't think this is playable though. I don't think that deck is tier 1 either. But it is a deck. Underdark Basilisk, 2 mana, 1/2 Death Touch. Okay, I believe this is a downshift. I'm not sure, but it's not playable. And that is all the green commons. So yeah, green got some interesting cards. A lot of reprints. This color shift, Poison the Blade, is interesting. It might see play. I have some thoughts with it. Some deck brews. Owlbear is a great reprint. If you need to pick that up. Null Hunter, I like this card, but it's probably just borderline playable. So the mill deck got a couple cards here, and I think that is it. Ambitious Dragonborn, Band Together, You Line Up the Shot, Follow Tracks, Arcane Archery. Yep. So a couple medium cards, nothing outstanding, but a couple good reprints. Let's move on. Multicolored. So there are a lot of uncommons for Pauper Brawl, which is a thing that we've been doing in our server. You know, I'll put the link in the description if you want to join and play. Yeah, it looks like there are some cool commanders. I don't see any commons. I wonder if there are any common multicolored cards. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. All uncommons and rares. Alright, let's take a look at the artifacts. Cloak of the Bat, 2 mana. Equipped creature has flying haste for 2 mana. Okay, this looks close to playable. This looks very close to playable. At the moment, I want to say it's not playable, but you know, if equipments get a little bit better, or some kind of creature that equipment matters gets a little bit better, this could definitely be on the list. Some kind of combo that needs haste. This is probably on the list for that too. Iron Golem, 4 mana, 5/3 vigilance, attacks or blocks each combat if able. Okay, so this is that wall breaker card. I forget what it's called. Yeah. A functional reprint of that wall breaker card, I think. 4 mana, 5/3. That's okay. I don't think it's good enough because of Frostbite specifically. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things at three power, right? Cyril's Packmate at 4 mana as well. Um, so I don't think this card is playable. Lantern of Revealing, 3 mana, mana rock, add 1 mana. 4, look at the top card. If it's a land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped. If you don't put it, you may put it on the bottom. Interesting, okay. Wow. I think this is just a little bit too costly. 4 mana tapped. If it's a land, you can put it onto the battlefield tapped. Yeah, I think this is a little bit too costly. It's a little bit too slow. But it does look good. It does look good. Okay, Pilgrim's Eye. This is the next common here. 3 mana flying. When Pilgrim Eye enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Okay. I believe there's already an artifact that's a 1/2 for 3 mana that does the same effect. Search your library for a basic land card. It's not flying, so this being a Thopter 1/1 flying makes it a little bit better. But I believe green already has a Sylvan Ranger that costs 2 that searches your library for a basic land card. So I don't think this will see play. Prophetic Prism, this is a reprint. Great card. In your multicolored decks. Definitely a role player though, not an actual like main playable card. Spiked Pit Trap, 1 mana. Okay, I think this is a reprint as well. This is pretty mediocre, paying 1 mana but then 5 mana to tap it. It's pretty mediocre. And yeah, take a look at this. They made the gates uncommon on Historic Pauper. In Vintage Pauper, in Paper Pauper, these are commons. And that is it for Historic Pauper. Alright, so not too many standouts, but a lot of reprints, a lot of semi-playable cards, a couple sideboard options. Red probably has the best commons in this set because they got those rituals. I'll probably be playing a lot of red coming up when this set comes out. Alright, thank you guys for listening to my review. I'm going to call Reckless Barbarian as the best common in this set, and then probably Young Red Dragon as the second best. Yeah, thank you guys. I hope you guys join our Historic Pauper server and have fun with Historic Pauper.